I have finally played One Piece Odyssey. I've put my hands on the game, I pressed some buttons, and things happened on screen. It finally happened. But unfortunately, Bandai Namco did not let me record any of it. And I don't know why, because it was the exact same demo that they had at Anime Expo. The exact same demo that Bandai Namco themselves have released about a month ago. Now, they did hook me up with some B-roll, and the B-roll includes most of the demo that was played. The footage is in 4K, so it's probably gonna look as good as you've ever seen this game. But more importantly, I can tell you what it's like to play One Piece Odyssey. Oh, and at the end of the demo, there was a boss fight. That boss fight was cut from the live stream that Bandai Namco did, so you might not have seen it. Spoiler alert, you're also not gonna see it today, but I can tell you all about it. So previously, all I knew about this game was whatever I had seen in gameplay trailers and gameplay demos over on YouTube. Basically the same position that you guys are in right now. The first main difference that I noticed from watching the gameplay and watching the cutscenes is that seeing this game in person and 4K resolution, this game looks really good. The art style was definitely a big worry of mine. I didn't think it looked great, because characters look like they're made out of plastic almost. It's definitely an art style choice. It's not something that feels like it's been done poorly. It's not something that looked awful even. But to me, it was an art style choice that I didn't really like too much. But now, having played it in 4K, mind you, I don't know how this looks in 1080p, but in 4K, I like the look of this a lot. And that was the first major difference I felt from just watching gameplay and actually playing the game itself. Now, as soon as the demo started, I recognized it immediately, and yeah, I was a little bit bummed out that I was not gonna see anything new, but hey, at least I was gonna try it for myself. So the exploration does seem to be a lot of this. You walk around this very narrow path, and sometimes you can interact with some objects for some observations. None of them seem voiced. I don't know if that's how it's gonna be in the final game or not, but in this demo, the only voice acting that happened was on the actual main path. These optional things, none of them were voiced. You have a jump button, you can hit jump at any time, but other than that, everything happens very automatically, as you will see in a moment. So Luffy can extend his arm and clear some of these gaps. It's pretty straightforward. You just aim with the left trigger and then shoot the arm with the right trigger. You cannot shoot the arm without aiming first. That's something I definitely tried. That could help the pace of exploration perhaps, but no, you always gotta stop, aim, and then shoot. Breaking objects and picking up items was something that felt kind of slow when I watched the gameplay. It is still a little bit slow, but you basically have two options, and one of them can make them faster, which is the option you're watching right now. Instead of walking up to these pots, hitting circle to break the pots, and then hitting circle again to pick up the item, you can do it from afar with Luffy by just hitting R2, which is the Gomu Gomu pistol button, the same button that you use to traverse the environment. This did feel a little bit faster, didn't bother me as much as it first did when I watched the gameplay demo. Now there's an obstacle here that you can climb, but you can only climb these obstacles if there is this big arrow right next to them. So you're not gonna get any sort of free-form exploration, not really. Everything that you can interact with, be it climbing, be it throwing your arm to grapple hook your way across something, it's always set points in the environment, which makes the whole game feel a little bit more linear. And from there, we have our first combat encounter. Now, this demo puts you in a place where it feels like you're not exactly at the start of the game, because you already have a lot of your crewmates with you. In fact, this mission is to rescue Nami, so I bet you had to rescue these other guys before. But because this is a demo, this is where they put the tutorial. So for this whole combat scenario right here, all you can do is press the attack button. This is not how the final game is going to be, obviously. This is just for tutorialization purposes, but that did make it so I couldn't explore this demo as much as I probably wanted to. So yeah, you can see when your turn is gonna happen. You can also see which enemy is gonna attack next by just looking at the top left. So you can choose which enemy to target based on that. And for this whole encounter, you just press the attack button until it is clear, and then you can move on. Everyone levels up from level 40 to 41, which I'm not gonna lie, felt a bit too high for the enemies we were fighting against. This whole demo was very baby mode. There was no failing this demo. Basically, you couldn't go wrong. For the next combat encounter, this one is going to be interesting because the B-roll they provided is actually very different from how I tackled this mission. So first, let's watch what they do, because you're going to see some new moves here that you haven't seen before. And then I'm going to take you through how I did things in this same encounter. So Usopp is paralyzed and he's being attacked by 3 penguins. He's in an area that is completely separate from the rest of the group, and the rest of the group cannot join Usopp until they defeat this enemy, this single Asa. So here we have Sanji, who's going to do a single attack, Conquer. Sir, there you go. That's brand new as far as I can tell. I don't think we had footage for that yet. And now Usopp is gonna get attacked by the penguins. Usopp is completely paralyzed, so he cannot retaliate, but the rest of the crew is now free to move because they don't have any enemies in their area anymore. Now, you don't actually move manually. You don't select Luffy, for instance, and say, hey, you're gonna move over there. No. As soon as you do one attack that requires melee range, Luffy will move automatically. I thought you'd have a little bit more control over that, but it's basically, if you want to move over there, just use an attack with melee range. We have a brand new attack from Chopper as well. I actually did not use this one at all, so I'm happy to see it. And then the fight ends with Gum Gum, Jet, Bazooka. Luffy goes Gear 2 because this is a Gear 2 attack, and you have a beautiful animation. Every single attack animation that I've seen has been animated with this same level of quality. They all look really, really good. And now that the enemies have been defeated on Usopp's side, the paralysis is removed. You can also see that Luffy stays in Gear 2, and that's important for something that I'm going to talk about later. But now, let's see how I tackled this mission. And we're gonna have to use a little bit of imagination here. So the fight starts, you have 3 characters on one side and you have Usopp being attacked by 3 penguins. Instead of taking down the character that's right next to us, I chose to take down the characters that are next to Usopp. But how did I do that, you might ask? Because I cannot move over there. The thing is, some characters have attacks that hit from range. You can see the scheme on the bottom right every time you scroll through your attacks. If you see the enemy right next to your character, that's a close range attack. But if you see the enemy on the other circle, that's a ranged attack. You do not need to eliminate that guy to use a ranged attack on the other dudes. Now, I'm not sure which attack I used, but I'm pretty sure I used Sanji. So I'm gonna say Sanji probably has an attack that hits not just one, but multiple enemies from far away. And that one attack was enough to eliminate the 3 penguins in one go, which meant the paralysis on Usopp was undone, and then Usopp could help the rest of the crew take down the single Asa. I think there's a lot of potential for some interesting things here with this combat system. The question is, will they take advantage of it or not? Because the way they're showing this game right now, there are way too many tutorials, your characters are over leveled, and if that's indicative of what they are going for with the final game, then none of the strategy will matter. And that sucks, because I think they have something kind of unique with this combat system that they could really explore, and we won't know if that's going to be the case or not until we get the final game. So until then, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say I'm optimistic. Now, back to Luffy and Gear 2. Because you use the move that requires Gear 2, Luffy transforms and he gains a buff that will last him for a few turns. I don't know exactly how many turns, because like I said, everyone died way too fast in this demo. But if you choose not to use one of those moves and just use Gear 2nd, you will see that it gives him an attack buff for a total of 5 turns. Now, I bet if you're just using a Gear 2 move because you're attacking at the same time and not just buffing yourself, it will probably not last for as long. Also, as an added bonus, the Jet Bazooka, if it didn't kill the penguin, it would actually push it to another area. And these penguins seem to have melee attacks only, so that could be a very good way of denying damage for the next turn. Now, unfortunately, that's all the B-roll that I was sent. But if you recall, back when I reacted to the 18 minutes of gameplay that they released, they stopped that gameplay right before a boss fight. And I wish I could tell you that that boss fight is something special, but I really couldn't tell. You jump into a boss fight with this King Kong and a bunch of enemies around, and you're split into basically 3 different areas. So the complexity of the encounter is slightly higher than what you've seen so far. But everything just kind of died in one shot, so there was really no strategy behind it. The boss was the one exception. Now, I had access to Nami at that point, and Nami actually has an attack that deals damage to opponents close to her and far away from her. She can basically hit everyone with like a thunderbolt tempo. Not only did she hit everyone and kill most of the enemies in one hit, the thunder also paralyzed the boss. So with the boss paralyzed for 2 turns, I ended up not seeing what made that boss special. I didn't even see it attacking. The boss just died in 3 turns, so if that was a boss fight, it wasn't very special. I was definitely very overpowered for this fight, and it's also hard to get a sense of what the final game will be because the demo was too restrictive. You couldn't take 2 steps without characters interrupting you to give you a hint or to tell you how to climb a vine. At some point, I turned to Rene, who was right next to me, and I just said, "Let me play the game." So what I can tell you, coming out of Gamescom and playing One Piece Odyssey, is that it feels like a very by-the-numbers JRPG. It's not doing anything that you haven't seen before, except for that combat system taking place in different areas. That was the most different thing that I've seen in the demo, or the most distinct thing from other more basic JRPGs. Because the exploration stuff was really just move forward and press R2 once in a while, and here's this very narrow path. There were some other side paths that you could explore, but every time I tried to, they just say, yo, don't go that way, that's the wrong way, and they wouldn't let me do it. I also looked at the distance and saw some more open areas with enemies walking around them. They could just be background, but why would there be enemies walking around those areas? I'm gonna say that there are some places that won't just be a narrow path, and this is the way it is right now, because they're giving you a tutorial, basically. Bottom line is, it's not enough to judge the game, not by a long shot. It's an RPG, so we're gonna need a lot of hours to properly judge this one. But if I ever play this game again, I would like to do so without so much hand-holding, because a lot of the tutorials were really just obvious basic gamer stuff. If you see an arrow, you can walk up to it. And by the way, you don't even need to touch the arrow. I would say from around here, Luffy just completely magnetizes towards it and does the whole climbing animation. I mean, you even see the running animation being interrupted. So as soon as you get close to that arrow, you are climbing that hill. But anyway, that was my experience with One Piece Odyssey. Thank you, Bandai Namco, for sending over this B-roll. I think it would be a lot harder to talk about my experience without showing people something, so thank you for that. And I would love to know if any of this changed your mind regarding the game. If you were on the fence, where do you stand right now? If you were already looking forward to it, are you still excited? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. And before you go, I saw a lot of other stuff at Gamescom. I'm not sure I'll make a video on it, but I'll tell you the whole story on Twitch. So twitch.tv/Globku. I cannot talk about a few games. Well, I can't talk about Sonic. I can't talk about Sonic until Tuesday. So next week, we'll do a Twitch stream where I talk about all the games that I played and everything that I thought of it. Give me a follow to know when I'm live. But as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!